Hey, what's up, guys? Wanted to jump on here and tell you what I'm doing. It is January in East Tennessee, Johnson City to be exact. So we are in Northeast Tennessee. We are the new Zone 7A. We've always felt like we were 6B, 7A teetering here in Johnson City. So we've always kind of went between 6B and 7A. So under our new USDA hardiness maps, we are 7A. So going by what you're supposed to be doing, there's several crops you should be planting right now. But we're going to talk about the one that we are currently working on today. And so today we are working on an allium. Some of you might not know what an allium is. Well, an allium is several things. But the one we're working on right now is onions. Now, we are doing a multi-sown onion. So we are seeding multiple onion seeds in cell type trays to pull out, and we will plant them as a plug directly into the garden. We won't separate these when we plant them. The whole plug will go in the garden. Now, what I do on my bulbing onions is different than what I do on my bunching onions. It's different than what I do on a couple of other onions, but on a bulb type onion. So an onion you're looking to get anywhere from, let's say quarter size bulbs, probably 50-cent piece size, all the way up to hopefully baseball or larger. I've never been much success with those softball sized ones, but hey, it may happen one day. But anyway, we are mid-January. So, and it is cold out here today, so I'm glad to be inside working on transplants that will go into the garden in around 8 weeks. So, we're going to put them in the garden about 8 weeks. That'll put them roughly 2 to 4 weeks, about 3 weeks-ish ahead of our last scheduled frost date. So, our last frost date is going to be around April the 21st, I think, maybe 18th. I kind of go with a mix. The two closest stations to us, Johnson City doesn't get measured exactly. So the weather station closest to us is Elizabethton, but Elizabethton is a colder hit than us most of the time. So their last frost date is the 24th. And Kingsport, Tennessee is right above us. And their last frost date, I think, is the 17th, maybe? So I shoot somewhere in the middle. So around the 20th, roughly. And so that's what we aim for. Onions will be a lot more forgiving than some crops. You got a little more room for forgiveness with an onion set than you do with tomatoes, peppers, and of course nowhere near time for eggplants yet. But anyway, so we want to be a little more cautious when it comes to the crops that don't like it cold or can't handle the cold or are not tolerant of frosts. Now, if we was to have some really bad weather snap off after these guys go on the ground, I'll cover them with some roll cover. Otherwise, I'll let them fend for themselves. Keep them watered, fertilized well, let them get rooted real good and up and running. So, right now we're working on onions, and I'm going to talk to you about some varieties that we're growing. So, turn you around for just a second and let you take a look. So this is Red Long of Florence. And we are doing, as you can see, specialty onion. Days to maturity is 90. We bought these a quarter of a pound. Didn't need a quarter of a pound, but we'll get several years out of these before we quit using them. And it was cheaper to figure on getting 2 to 4 years out of these than it was to buy a smaller package and end up paying half as much for a little package. So it'll just work out better for us. We're already on 3 years of these. We'll probably get another couple of years out of them, and it'll end up paying off in the long run. So I don't know if you can see, those little black dots are the onion seeds. So I'm shooting for 5 in each one. Now you can thin these if they was to all come up and you don't want that many. But I'm okay with 5 because what I will do is I will probably treat one of these as just a spring onion if they all come up. And I'll pull one out, maybe even 2. Depends upon the demand I have for spring onions. So some of these, there'll probably be more than 5 in, but 5 is what I really try for. I don't put a lot of effort. If I end up dropping 6 or 7, that's what stays in there. And so, looks like I did pretty good. Oh, we got 6 in that one. So, the red Long of Florence is a longer, as it sounds, red bulbing onion. Be something a little fancier than a traditional storage onion. And these are not intended to store for a very long period of time. It's more for cooking or chopping on your salads or so forth. So, that being said, we also sow some other varieties. We are working with, let's take a look. So the Walla Walla is not perfect for our area. We are an intermediate date onion. So if we sow it in the spring, it's a 125 day to maturity variety, but it's best if it's overwintered. Overwintered onions around here work sometimes. So 300 days to maturity if you overwinter it. And you'll see we bought 25,000 seeds estimated when we bought these. And we went through about 1/4 of them. And yes, that's a lot of onions. So then we got some bulbing onions. This is a storage variety, and this is Calibra. We'll sow this one again a little bit later in the year I think this is the one, actually. I'm not positive. I have to look. Nope, this isn't it. So we'll sow this now. I've got another one we'll sow later in the year for overwintering onion we're going to try. But Calibra is a nice big yellow storage onion. And then we have Bridger. Now, Bridger is a nice, huge yellow onion, but this is considered an early variety. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Calibra, if you didn't see it, is 110 days to maturity. The Bridger is a 90 day to maturity, so you get a nice big onion quicker, but it doesn't store quite as long as Calibra. And I have already seeded the Monastrell. Now, that's a pretty good sized red onion. Now, these are pelleted seeds. I can get this open one-handed. I'll show you. There we go. So these are pelleted seeds. They make them a little easier to handle that way. They're a little more money. They coat these in clay. And if you're direct seeding, it makes it easier. And if you're using a vacuum seeder, the vacuum seeder picks these up quite well. So you can control what you're doing. But they come like that. And this is this jar would have been about 5,000 seeds, so not nearly as many as I had on the Walla Walla. We also have the Red Long of Tropea. Now, this is a very similar onion to the Red Long of Florence, and you really don't need them both. We just kind of experimented when we bought. It's 90 days to maturity, but the Red Long of Tropea is a larger onion. You'll get a much bigger bulb. And then we have some onions that we will direct seed. These just grow faster, as you see, 60 days to maturity. We direct seed these in early spring, so they're not ready to go yet. That's a purplet. It's a small specialty onion. And then we have this one. This is even though it's a longer days to maturity, it's still a variety we will direct seed, Cipollini. And it's 105 days to maturity, unless I change my mind. Then we have the Gold Coin. That's an 80 day to maturity. That's a specialty Cipollini type. Eclipse, we will direct seed, 60 days to maturity. And then we have bunching onions. We have Deep Purple. As you can imagine, that's purple. 60 days to maturity on that. And Parade bunching onions at 65 days to maturity. And then we have I've already got some of these seeded, but I will direct seed also. This is a 65 day to maturity on an evergreen hardy white. And then I've got some that I'm not growing right now that will grow at some other time. So let me show you a better idea of what these onion seeds look like for these Walla Wallas, and several of your onion seeds look just like this right here. So those little black specks, that is an onion seed. So these trays that I'm working with, this is a 72 cell tray. I've done these in 98s and 128s also. They will work. And this is a multi-sown setup. So multi-sown simply means that we're putting more than one seed in together so they'll grow like a clump. I'll try to remember when we're harvesting to bring you back for an update video on how this works, and let you see the onions we produce. You can definitely sow all these single, and you can sow these onions in a seed flat and then separate them, and plant one onion set at a time. But to save time for us, we will put these plugs in the ground. And to me, there's only two downsides to this scenario. Is you may not get those softball size onions. May not. And we probably won't. We would have to baby these really, 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 really a lot to get that. And we probably won't baby them that much. And the other thing that if it would be a downside would be you may get some onions with some indentations in them. May. And I'm not worried about that. Now, if I was looking for maximum storage ability, maximum, I would put one onion per spot. And that way I would try to be able to get that absolute last every day I could out of that onion in storage. But that's not what we're looking for. So, because we will freeze dry these, we will eat them fresh, we will sell them at market, they'll go in our CSAs for our customers, and we will dehydrate some, so we will have onions right on and on and on. So, all right, guys, I will bring you back later. Now, what we're doing is, you probably saw, let me show you again. You see, these are not very deep down into these cells, and that's intentional. We don't want to bury these real deep. So I'll put a thin layer of dirt over top of these and water them in. And I won't pack the dirt. I will let the watering pack it so that the layer gets thinner. And that'll give the onion a better chance of germination because it's a small seed, folks. It's not a big seed. It's a small seed. So we don't want to get it too far down in the dirt. If it was in the bottom, it would never have the energy to germinate through the soil. Sorry about that. I just eat lunch and it hasn't settled well yet. And we don't want our roots growing out the bottom. We want the roots to fill up that whole cell so that they get a good start when we put them in the ground. Now, once these germinate and get up, we will start watering these with a high nitrogen fertilizer. Now, we are certified organic, so a high nitrogen fertilizer for us is going to be something that's got somewhere between 8 and 12 for your nitrogen, which is your first number. We won't be using like 20-20-20 or 30-20-20 or anything crazy like that. This is going to be like a 8-4-3. I don't know the exact numbers on what we got. It'll be something like that versus later in the season for our crops that we want fruit off of. We use a variety that is going to be for bloom and a little less green growth, so the nitrogen comes down a little bit. But for these alliums, for these onions, we need to get that greenery as big as we can before the bulb starts to form. So the day length triggers bulb formation. So you have short day onions, intermediate day onions, and long day onions. So what we're working with primarily is intermediate day. The Walla Walla is a short date onion that is technically made for further south than us, but I've heard that it grows kind of fairly well in our area, so we wanted to try it because the Walla Walla is a super similar onion to a Vidalia. I won't say it's the same, but it's a very similar onion to a Vidalia. So everybody likes a nice sweet Vidalia onion on their burgers, and goes good in chili too. So hot dogs. But so we're going to try to grow it. We'll see how big we can get that onion up to. Some of these other ones like the Bridger and the Calibra, we've grown them and got some pretty good sized onions. We were really happy to have neglected them as bad as we did and ended up with onions the size that we did. So we're looking to make them double that size this year. We're hoping to get those varieties up to more like a little bit bigger than a baseball. Somewhere between baseball and softball would be wonderful for me to accomplish on these, and I would love to do it. So I'll label these trays. I just put the information on a piece of masking tape, and I'll put the masking tape on there, and it'll say Walla Walla, and it'll say JS for Johnny Seeds, and then I'll put onion just for clarification in case somebody else happens to be working on it besides me and my wife, and then I'll put the days to maturity on there. If there's special planting instructions for something, I put that on the tag if it's something I'm not going to remember, but onions I can handle. These guys will go in 40-foot rolls, because where I'm planting them this year will be a 40-foot roll, and they will be put in that 40-foot roll single file. They won't be like triple spacing on the bed, and we will place them every 6 inches. Now you can place them closer. Anywhere probably from 2 to 6 is acceptable, but I will put 18 inches between the rolls, and you can put the rolls closer, but I'm a big boy. I need room to get in there to work these onions and keep the weeds out of them, and that's hard to do if you can't get in there. So I will leave 18 inches between them, and I'll be able to work these with a wheel hoe for a little bit, and then I'll be working them by hand and with a regular hoe. So I got to keep the weed pressure down so that these onions can feed and soak in the sun, so we can get the greenery as big as we can before bulbing, because that green on that onion is what's going to feed the root on the bottom of that onion. And we're trying to grow a root. Now, I love the greens on the onion, especially spring onions. Oh, that's just so good. But we're trying to grow a root for these. This is a bulbing onion. We more than likely will not eat the greens off of these, because we're going to wait until the greens get fatigued before we pull the majority of them. Now, the ones I bring out as young onions and eat them as a young onion, those will work just fine. I can eat the greens on them, chop them up, put them in my salads, chop them up, put them in stir fries, wherever I want to use them. But this way, when you let them go to maturity, you're going to wait till them greens fall over. We'll talk about that in another video. But anyway, I just want to give you a little bit of a highlight on how to grow and let you know that if you're wanting to grow onions for your area, if you're in our area, you're looking for intermediate day. Now that'll cover, you can look at them. There's plenty of maps online. I won't bore you with one right now, but there's plenty of maps. But basically here through Tennessee and Kentucky and a little more farther south than us and a little further north, we're working for intermediate day onion. And so you want, if you're in our area, get you an intermediate day onion. That's going to give you your best, and start seeds now. It's cheaper to start it from seed than it is to buy onion sets. And 9 times out of 10, you'll get a far superior product starting from seed. Onions are not hard to grow from seed, and it's a cheap item to buy from seed. So guys, get started on that garden. Get started now. Get your onions sown. And be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. And we'll keep trying to bring more stuff back to you so you can lower that grocery bill. This series is about enabling you to grow your produce in your backyard and see how far that grocery bill can plummet. So, all right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. See ya.